Just 1 week after being indicted in a Manhattan court, Trump Organization Chief Financial Officer Alan Weisselberg has been relieved of his duties as director of the Trump International Golf Club in Scotland. Weisselberg held that role since 2006. His removal is the first indication that the indictment by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office has affected operations at the Trump Organization. Weisselberg and the Trump Organization pleaded not guilty to charges of conspiracy, grand larceny, tax fraud, and falsifying records. The Daily Beast reports today that in addition to Weisselberg, the indictment lists 7 Trump Organization companies, including one where Ivanka Trump held an executive role for 8 years. According to the Daily Beast, while it's impossible to know what charges are still to come, legal experts say the indictment suggests bigger targets are in line, potentially including the former president's adult children. Joining us now is David Cay Johnston, Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter who's done extensive reporting on Donald Trump's finances. He's the author of The Making of Donald Trump. And Glenn Kirshner, former federal prosecutor and an MSNBC legal analyst. Thank you both for joining me this evening. It's another big story about Trump and his finances. David, is this news out of Scotland, the Weisselberg removal? Is this the Trump Organization trying to do damage control at one of its more prestigious outlets, the Trump International Golf Course? What exactly is going on here? How big a deal is it?
Well, the one thing we know for sure is that Alan Weisselberg is still working for Donald Trump. So this does not represent a split between them, which is what prosecutors would really like to get, because it will make it much easier to make a case against Donald Trump. It suggests to me, and I'm fascinated with what Glenn thinks about this, that Donald may be trying to consolidate closer to the family, close as Alan Weisselberg has been for 48 years, he's not family. And secondly, there is an effort in Scotland to pursue what's called an unexplained wealth inquiry. Would that we had a law like that in America. And it may be that for lawyers have advised them to remove as a controlling person Alan Weisselberg as they try to avoid this unexplained wealth inquiry.
So, Glenn, from Alan Weisselberg to Ivanka Trump, given the Daily Beast reporting about her alleged role in some of these controversial Trump businesses, how worried should she and her brothers be that at some point the Manhattan prosecutors come after them too?
You know, Mehdi, there's some pretty clear foreshadowing in that 24-page indictment that was handed down by the New York grand jury. I mean, when you read the indictment, the evidence of Alan Weisselberg's guilt, it is really overwhelming. You know, from the 2 sets of books to an indication that Alan Weisselberg's own tax preparer has flipped on him to a pretty clear paper trail that shows he was criminally evading federal, state, and New York City taxes. So, but I think probably the most ominous part of that indictment is there are 2 unnamed people, presumably fairly high up in the Trump Organization, who enjoyed the same criminal perks that Alan Weisselberg enjoyed. So they haven't been named yet, but we have to ask ourselves, who are 2 other individuals who would have been high up enough in the organization and firmly entrenched enough in Donald Trump's inner circle that they may have enjoyed the same off-the-books compensation as Alan Weisselberg? Yeah. Could their last name be Trump? I mean, we will know soon enough.
It's a very, very, very good question, Glenn. David, just returning to Weisselberg, there was some hope that he might turn on Trump. Flip! But he hasn't. He's risking a prison sentence. You've been following the Donald. You've known him personally for decades now. Why do so many people around him risk and even do jail time for this most disloyal of bosses, Weisselberg, Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, Michael Flynn, etc.?
Well, the people who work for Donald Trump are people who are willing to give up their own independence. Alan Weisselberg is a wholly owned psychological subsidiary of Donald Trump's criminal mind. And if you work for Donald in any high-level position, you have to commit criminal offenses. And they've committed many of them over the years. So it would be difficult to get Weisselberg to flip in any circumstances. There is no minimum prison sentence in the indictment that he now faces. So he could get, in theory, 15 years. But he's a first-time offender. He's in his 70s. Probably would get probation or, at worst, home confinement. That's probably not enough to get him to flip. On the other hand, if they were to charge his son, we've heard a lot about their family dynamics.
Oh, yeah. Family dynamics indeed. Glenn, last quick question to you before we run out of time. I have to ask, you and I have had this discussion many times before, my friend. Donald Trump, his organization may go down for some sort of tax payment, corruption, crimes, but there are much bigger crimes he should be prosecuted for, right?
Yeah. Donald Trump is a federal problem, and we need a federal solution. It's wonderful that New York has finally gotten off its duff, and it seems like they're moving toward indicting him for the New York State financial crimes he seems to have been engaged in for some time. It's great that Georgia is investigating him for potential violation of Georgia's state election laws, but he's a federal problem. He's committed federal crimes against the United States, and we need a federal solution. That looks like an indictment from the Department of Justice.
I mean, 600,000 people are dead because of this guy. Let's just be clear about that. David K. Johnston, Glenn Kirshner, thank you so much for your time tonight. I appreciate it.